Hello, I'm Jack Zhang, and this is the Ivory Tower. In this episode, we are asking people to what extent they feel they have control over their screens and to what extent they feel their screens have control over them. Given the death of broadcast and the rise of social and mobile media, it might seem natural to assume that now, more than ever before, we have control over our media consumptions, over what we see on our screens. However, as Isaac Asimov once said, your assumptions are your windows on the world. Scrub them off every once in a while, or the light won't come in. Before we begin, let's see what the public had to say on the issue when we hit the street for a Vox Pop last week.
It seems as if people cannot do without their screens. Devices have enabled them to do everything and be everywhere at the same time. But the general consensus is that consumers are being dominated by their media consumption, and sometimes it's completely out of control.
I think people aren't in control of them because I've had to take sort of certain steps, so I'm in control of them. Like I don't have much social media on my phone, so I can enjoy my day and I'm not addicted to my phone.
I don't think I'm not an addict. I'm not on it all the time. I listen to a lot of music though, but I get to choose what I listen to then, I suppose.
I mean, me myself, we love it. We love the social media, we love exploring it, we love posting on it, and yeah, I think you could say it is in control of us as well, but we're obviously initially in control of that too, because obviously it's a phone. You can choose whether to be part of that or not, but yeah, I would agree. I think it swings both ways, but yeah, there's a lot of people love the media, yeah, definitely.
Well, I think there's a mixed bag. I think in many cases, I think social media like Facebook and Twitter, I think I have a lot of control over it in terms of being able to connect to the larger world, and I think that's great.
I think the media is control the people's mind right now, yeah. So, but yeah, normally I don't believe that.
When I was growing up, we had carrier pigeons.
But I'm probably more attached to my screen at the moment because we have a child who's travelling overseas, so I'm constantly checking, like even all night, checking Messenger and stuff at the moment, but that's very much about a particular period in time, but normally not quite so much.
I'm constantly on my phone, so I always have my iPhone 6 Plus with me because it has the bigger screen. I have my iPad throughout the house. I have got my laptop open. It definitely has control over me. I don't know what I would do without it.
Well, I'm obviously from England, so my family live on the other side of the world, so Facebook is a perfect place for me to be able to talk to them, as well as like WhatsApp and everywhere else. I can see what they're up to, see what they're doing, if they upload pictures, and then yeah, it's just a good way to connect with people. And my friends, all my friends are back home. I don't really know many people in Australia yet, so it's a good way to just connect with them.
And I am on Facebook, but only with some close friends. I don't surf the web or anything like that. I only go home when I have to answer an email.
Screen is definitely in control of us. And what's more, it's not only the screen, it's the people that manipulate the information behind the screen that are in control of us more. Now, if we look at the flow of news information, we actually are controlled. It's controlling us.
Joining us today in studio to discuss this are Dr. Oliver Wadeb, sociologist of communication and design, and Dr. Julian Noves, lecturer in writing for social and mobile media. Thank you for your time today, gentlemen.
Thanks,
You're
Jeff.
welcome.
So, what do you think? Do you think we are controlled by our media consumptions, or our media consumptions are controlled by us?
That's a really interesting question, because to an extent I think we're always shaped by our media consumption. But I suppose thinking historically about human beings and technology, the question of control comes up again and again as a component of technofear, or anxieties about technology. The two key questions we keep coming back to are the extent to which the technology is in control of us, shaping our responses, the ways in which we perceive the world and operate within it, and also the question of our dependence on technology. How are we being changed through our reliance on particular technological devices? So our anxiety about screens, particularly mobile screens, isn't really a new thing, I think, in terms of our relationships or responses to technology.
There is a problem with how we use screens, or how screens are using us. I wouldn't go as far to say that people are very much in control of the screens. I think we are in a state where the balance is more in favor of screens than people. Like if we think of the exposure that people have, to screens, younger population, students, if we look at Australia, it's around 5-6 hours per day they're exposed to screens. Students, they look at their phones more than 40 times, more than 40 times a day, they check them. I think that what's happening is a wider dynamic, a wider change in society that goes along with technology and with the economy that is part of capitalism. I think that we can speak about a state where we can describe what's happening as some sort of a hegemony of the short term, a tyranny of the moment, this urge to be in the so-called constant now, to constantly try to see what's happening, although most of the time no profound events are happening. We are constantly checking and updating ourselves and seeing what others are posting, just to be somehow connected with a wider circle of people that we know. Many of them we don't know, and in that sense I think it's becoming a culture that is also very, very much anti-dialogic. So I see this in this context. So when I say anti-dialogic, I mean for a culture to be dialogic, there has to be an appreciation of time, of long-term engagement, of relationships that are that have a perspective of a longer time. What's happening now is the opposite. Everything is short-term. Everything is instant. Well, the majority of things. I will not say everything.
The last question: what do you think people's self-control over media in the future is going to be looks like?
Do you want to start?
Well, I think it's hard to predict. I see two main poles, two main trends. One is, the trend that I feel is problematic, the one that I have described, a very much dependent, addicted use of media, non-reflected, and not knowing that, what's happening online, using so much of our time, outside of sleeping in front of screens. And with this, the growing technologies like Google and Facebook and so on, right? On the other hand, I think there is a trend towards transparency, towards dialogue. People react in a profoundly different way if they're approached in a different way. And to me, what's interesting that as long as we will be living in a capitalist system, these two trends will be starting to compete on a market, right? So a market will emerge and is emerging and is big already for technologies that treat people in a respectful manner. Yeah.
Yep. Well, as Ollie said, it's really difficult to predict where technology is going to take us and how we're going to evolve in response. I think what's important to remember when we talk about control and screens is that screens also use of these screens and use of digital network media also put tools in our hands to resist control, to assert our own identities in the world, to make our own content, to voice our own opinions, to share and circulate information in increasingly important ways. So again, I think it will come down to how we decide to use the technology and ultimately and the ways in which we can use these devices to resist their control over us or assert our own control.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
You've been with Jack Zhang on the Ivory Tower. We'd like to thank Dr. Oliver Vadep and Dr. Julian Novis for their time today, and we'd also like to thank you for watching. Goodbye.